Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Able Voices podcast. I'm Dr. Rhoda Bernard, founding managing director of the Berkeley Institute for Accessible Arts Education and the assistant chair of the music education department at Berkeley College of Music. And I am proud to present this podcast featuring disabled artists and arts educators. We are inviting artists with disabilities to be guest hosts for the Able Voices podcast. Today, you'll meet our next guest host, Carly Reigger. Riegger is a chronically ill and disabled artist, writer, curator, and advocate from Ann Arbor, Michigan. They utilize porcelain and installation artworks to express inner feelings and narratives of disability. Riegger has organized several important exhibitions for artists with disabilities through the National Council on Education for the Ceramic Arts, including Crip Clay in Cincinnati, Ohio in 2023, and Outpour in Detroit, Michigan in 2026. Reigger is also the recipient of the 2024 Midwest Artists with Disabilities Award. They hold an MA in Disability Studies from the City University of New York and are currently pursuing an MFA in Studio Art from the University of Wisconsin-Madison. Both Reigger's artwork and career goals involve disability inclusion and rights. They are working to expand how the arts communities work with artists with disabilities and how the disability communities utilize art to express complex disabled ideas.
Hello and welcome to Able Voices podcast. This is Car. I'm back again, this time with V, and I'm going to introduce V now. V. Walton is a disabled Maryland-based interdisciplinary artist and educator. Walton creates sculpture, installation, and video work centered on Black embodiment and ecology. V draws from their own life, reflecting on intersections of her disabilities, his chronic illness disability, and queerness. Their work illustrates societal and interpersonal dynamics that build and break us down simultaneously, making multi-layered connections between clay, terra, nature, and the body. V. Walton received their MFA in ceramic art at Alfred University and their BFA with a concentration in ceramics at Townsend University. They serve on the board of Cabo Clay Collective, National Council on the Education for Ceramic Arts. They are faculty at Maryland Institute College of Art and Morgan State University. Welcome, V.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for being here. I'm so excited to talk to you. I'd like to start off by asking you to tell us your story as an artist. How did you start as an artist and how did you get here today?
My story, okay. I have always been an artist. It's something that just was a natural inclination. So even as a child being in primary, secondary school, I was known as the artist kid, the person doing people's portraits or always sketching. And at that time, I had a fascination with fashion design and illustration. And so that was actually my first creative pursuit. And I ended up going to the Fashion Institute of Technology right out of high school and into the whirlwind of fashion. And it was a time, and I learned a lot. Probably more I can say about that another time. But I really kind of struggled with the lack of sustainability within the field. And it's funny, I didn't really have a connection to, I don't know, I wasn't really thinking so much about extractive materials and kind of like material excess in that way, the way that I am now. But even at that time, I was uncomfortable with it. And so I was really passionate about making clothes, but I felt like the field wasn't for me. And so I left and I traveled and I lived in a different country and I did that and then I returned back to the States and I'm originally from Maryland. And that's when everything really changed for me in so many ways. One of the core ways that it changed is that I got hit with a diagnosis out of nowhere. It felt like a train hit me. I started to have really adverse symptoms, just really debilitating symptoms. And I wasn't sure what was going on. And then I ended up, it's funny, a lot of my peers have experienced like similar things. You go to a doctor's appointment not knowing that everything's going to be different after that. And then they're like, it was such an emergency moment. They're like, if you don't go to the ER right now, like you got to go to the ER right now. And I went and they confirmed that I had this really rare condition. And at the time, I was in a hospital system that was really unfamiliar with my condition. And so I was not receiving any of the care that I needed during that time. So I ended up at Hopkins in a clinical trial a few months later. And they were like, so you have one of the rarest versions of this thing. We have to like act now. And so within a year of me being back in the States, my life went from, I mean, it was unrecognizable to me. And so as an individual, disability had already been a conversation in my life. I have a brother who is autistic and has more pronounced needs. And so, being the oldest sibling to him, particularly in the 90s, and really facing overt ableism and seeing how, as a Black disabled person, how society treats you, like my whole life was viewing that interaction. And so I I kind of like to say, you know, the disability community, like those are my people, right? And so that really started from like again, like my earliest memory. So here I am in my mid to late 20s getting hit with this like wild diagnosis. And I was like, so I'm fam? Like, you know what I mean? Like, I, just kind of grappling with a different side of the coin from more of a medical industrial complex side of things, where I am now on medication to live. I am now needing medical intervention. I am now dealing with persistent, debilitating pain. And so that was there's no real words for that transition, but I think some things had prepared me before that moment for me to like
Yeah.
live this reality. And so yeah, I have a progressive condition, so it's not necessarily going to get better. And so I just am in a place where I manage my condition in that way. And so it came to a point where I was like, I need a purpose. I need a purpose. I need to remind myself of of my place, and art really saved me in a lot of ways. And it was funny, before any of that was happening, when I returned back to the States, I was like, I'm gonna go back to school. I'm gonna go back to school. And I ended up getting pretty much like a full ride to go back to school. And so I said, you know what? I'm disabled and I don't know how I'm going to like this is going to really like be the unknown, but I'm going to try to go back to school. And yeah, everything changed again, because that's when as I was taking studio courses, got reintroduced, or really introduced for the first time, to clay. And I really consider it that without my fashion degree and my understanding of the body and proportions and pattern making, through pattern making, I was able to kind of translate my skills into slab building the figure. And yeah, I dedicated the rest of my BFA to focusing on figurative ceramics. And then I shot my shot. I shot my shot at one of the best ceramic MFA programs, and I got in. And my life changed again. And I went to Alfred University. And so I, at that time, knew that I was like, okay, I feel like I've been given a chance. And if I'm pursuing my chance, what does that mean? I really, I think it's because I was always working at like a human scale, making clothes. Like to go smaller than that just felt like a little strange. And so I wanted to kind of bring life like scale into my work. And so that was the pursuit and the focus of my time at Alfred, and also getting into installation art, working across mediums. I started creating environments using soil and ceramics and other natural materials. And so that was really the beginning of me finding, I would say, like my real language. And
Hmm.
yeah, and then, in the time since graduate school, I've further descended into just being obsessed with ecology. It was present in my graduate work, but I was like, I'm taking the full leap. This is what Black embodiment, really thinking about kind of healing this connection or like the severance that has happened between Black people and land due to systems of oppression and loss, and thinking about land as hopeful and regenerative and everlasting. And so that has, yeah, that's the place that I'm in now. And it's just, it feels that there's so many different ways I can approach it, through video and performance, through installation, through ceramic sculpture. And yeah, it took time coming to that place, but I feel like this is I feel like I'm in my groove, in my element. And yeah, and now I teach ceramic art as as faculty, as adjunct. Oh, yeah, wild
Yeah.
story.
No, that's great. Like your work is just like so rich and so profound, and like how you've stumbled on it. Like I also believe that like disabled people, like sometimes it just takes time, but then you like bam, there you are. So like I that's such an interesting thing for me to hear also laid out. And we've kind of touched on this a little bit, but can you talk about how you learn in the arts and how you continue to learn in the arts?
Yeah, because I have a unconventional background, I've had to really not catch up, but it's just been a different experience learning about fine art, learning about sculpture, learning about ceramics. It's been much more intuitive, much more self-guided, and continually expands, and I'm always learning. And I know that I am on a lifelong journey of learning more about these disciplines. But yeah, I learn a lot from the artists around me, from mentors. I have been fortunate to have worked with some really amazing artists and seeing their practice. And so it feels much more relational and less academic sometimes, like the way that I learn about these things or expand my knowledge.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And I mean, you're also involved in like NCECA and Cabo Clay, which is just so exciting to see that you're in
Yeah.
those spaces now.
Yeah. No, I'm really grateful for the opportunities that I've had, and also to work with other amazing ceramicists to um, really advocate for the ceramic arts in different ways. Sometimes I feel like more so in my practice, I've almost veered into like purely the sculpture realm. Like it feels in some ways more focused in that. And so having these other opportunities to be in my field, like the field of ceramics, it's very grounded, and I'm glad to, yeah.
Yeah. So I think another one of my questions is like, how does your disability affect like your artwork and practice, and has it affected like your growth or career path?
Yeah, for me, I think one of the difficulties I've had is because my disability is not visible to the outside viewer, that there's been like a level of skepticism, and if like me having to overcompensate for the fact that it's invisible. And so that has been like pretty pervasive, even when I was in school. And so I've had to kind of not get ahead of it, but be really vocal about the severity of the situation and my needs slash accommodations. Just being really clear about like in a best case scenario, everything's okay. And this scenario, this is what might happen. And I've kind of had a mix of experiences in some ways. And I would say when my disability like flares and is at full scale, it's kind of like, oh, whoa, like where did this come from? It's like we talked about it, and I think there's some difficulty in terms of meeting the moment. And other opportunities, there's been people that, take me at my word and and are really gracious and like understanding. But I do think that the more um um prominent the opportunity, or the larger the opportunity is, the more difficult it comes with its nuances, right? Of figuring out, how do I fulfill like my responsibilities as an artist, while also knowing that I can't predict what my body is going to do or how it's going to show up. And I don't know if that will ever change. And so the thing that I know that I can control is to be direct, and to so that everyone's aware. And yeah, and to provide alternatives, to provide like, not alternatives, but provide like options in terms of how we move forward, or what things look like. But I think that's something that all disabled artists either need to adopt, or do on certain levels. And that's part of the practice now, and also me considering, you know, what anticipating my needs ahead of time, and trying to make sure that those things are arranged. But yeah, I could want to continue to have amazing opportunities, where I make really large scale work, and I don't know, be able to do exactly what I want. But I know that I'll have to prepare on my end. And I also, it's all just relational, and working with whatever institution or organization I'm partnering with.
Right. I've had somewhat similar experiences where mine is also usually invisible, and I feel like I like really have to fight people sometimes. Not every instance, but like there's been times when I have to really pester people to get something done, which takes just like so much energy. So,
Yeah,
yeah, a lot of it's relational, and also like getting people to listen to you and
yeah.
convincing them in a lot of ways.
Yeah, because I think the other side of it too is, at least I'll just speak about myself. When I'm flaring at my worst, I am nowhere to be found. I'm
Yeah.
not doing that in public. Like,
Yeah.
like I am in the comfort of my home. And so I think people just have like this interesting perspective around invisible disability. Like it's all happening in public all the time. And it's like usually when we get the warning signs, we know what we got to do. And yeah, it's not a falsehood, it's not a separate reality. We just have systems in place so that we are where we need to be, and we're comfortable, and we have the things that we need.
What advice would you give to artists with disabilities?
That is definitely loaded. I would say that unfortunately, the world of art is ableist. And so we have to contend with that. It's a reality that exists and that our presence like pushes against. And so, yeah, you're not making it up. You're not making it up. I sometimes I wish that I was making it up, even in my own experience, like things that have happened. And so what I just try to do is just have patience for yourself as you navigate spaces. And I think really building connections with other disabled creators and artists is really vital, like having those networks, because at times it can feel isolating. And so just knowing that you are not alone and there's a bunch of other people who are making pathways and innovating and pushing against, expectations and all these things. Like we're not alone. And so that and I would say to really prioritize your health, because the field's not going to. So if you don't, who is? And that's also a message to myself. I'm talking to myself right now. So I think we, as just a community, like that's the biggest thing that we can do, is to really be like, what's expanding my capacity and what's like, and really having an honest conversation about that. And that whatever you come to, like, it's okay. Like, I think we can be hard on ourselves, and there's a grace that has to also be extended, and saying like, okay, like, you know, we can meet the goals, but to what end? Like there needs to be some like reverence for ourselves and like um and the dynamics we're experiencing. So
Yeah. Yeah, I 100% agree, especially with my experience too. Yeah, prioritizing health is just so, so important. But I also get competitive and also compare myself because I think a
oh,
lot of us do.
1,000%.
Yeah. Can you tell us about your current projects that you're working on?
This was a big year for me. I had some pretty large projects going on, and so I, in some ways, welcome a little pause, welcome a little time of recentering. But yeah, I've been in a mode of constantly making video work, and so really thinking about the next project. So a lot of my video work is about me interacting with a natural environment, embedding myself into the environment. So I'm already kind of planning the next thing. And also, I've pitched some ideas to explore my disability more overtly as well. Because in some cases, I do talk about my experiences as a disabled person less in my work at this current point. It's always present. It will never go away, but it's less of just like in the forefront than it used to be. And so finding projects where I'm like, no, this is the everything I'm talking about. Yeah, I'm looking forward to finishing some of those
Yeah,
things.
I'm so excited.
And again, making more sculpture. Yeah, it's like it's the balance, because it's like don't do too much of any one thing. Like constantly be in the flow of like mixed media, like
Mhm.
interdisciplinary projects. Like I think that's what really gets me excited. So
Yeah, I also just kind of think that's where so much of art is going, is interdisciplinary and people experimenting with so many things. And so and also conceptually intersections. And so I think that your work is doing all of that, and it's really exciting.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. Can you tell our audience where we can follow your work online?
Yeah, so my website is victoriawaltonstudio.com. And then on Instagram, it's Victoria Walton Studio. I might, a little disclaimer, I might drop it to V Walton. I
Yeah.
might.
I
I'm
was,
kind of flirting in 2026 with dropping Victoria 100%.
yeah,
So I do professionally and like in my name, but like on my platforms as well. So anyway, you can
right.
find me either way.
Cool. Yeah. Thank you so much for spending time with us today. This
Yeah,
was
thank
great.
you for having me. Appreciate it.
Able Voices is a production of the Berklee Institute for Accessible Arts Education, led by me, Dr. Rhoda Bernard, the founding managing director. It is produced by Daniel Martinez del Campo. The intro music is by Kai Levin, and our closing song is by Sebastian Batista. Kai and Sebastian are students in the arts education programs at the Berklee Institute for Accessible Arts Education. If you would like to learn more about our work, find us online at berkeley.edu/BIAAE or email us at BIAAE@berkeley, that's LEE.edu.